Hey everybody, I hope you're all doing well. So this week we're really looking at researching and drafting the critique essay. So if you haven't yet watched last week's lecture videos, please be sure to do so as I give you some examples of critique and synthesis paragraphs. But for this week, we've just got a few short videos and mostly it's just you working away and asking for help as you need it. But I do want to go over a few things to help you with that work this week. So I'm going to start doing virtual office hours via Skype. So from 2 to 3 p.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I will be hanging out on Skype. My username is live:_Kaylee J. Thomas, and you can send me a text chat message on there. You can call me if you want to talk, or we can do a video chat if that's something that would work better for you. So this way you can ask questions and get a direct response. We can brainstorm if you need ideas. You can send me your draft and I can kind of look at it on my end and talk to you, back and forth. So we'll try this out, see how it works. Skype is something that I think even if you're not already familiar with, it's pretty easy to use. You can download the app on your computer, your phone, or your tablet, or you can just go to skype.com and use it right in your browser without having to download anything. So that's something, throughout the week if you decide, hey, I have some questions. It's not really something I think I can explain in email. I'd like to be able to talk it out, even if it's just a quick question. I'll be on there from 2 to 3. And you can also email me to set up a meeting outside of those hours. We can definitely do that. As social distancing. That means I'm home, I'm available, not available 24/7, but I'm sure that we can make something work. So virtual office hours on Skype going forward, and of course you can always just email me too if that's working better for you. Ultimately, I just want to make sure I'm available to help you. So what are we working on this week? Well, first and foremost, if you haven't yet watched last week's videos and completed the readings, make sure you do so. They're going to help you in writing your critique essay. And the video that I posted on, I believe it was Thursday, that looks a bit long, so if you didn't get to it yet, you want to make sure you get to that this week. That's something that I offer some examples of synthesis paragraphs, critique paragraphs, everything that you would want for this essay. You also want to watch this week's videos, which are just a couple of minutes long. They're actually from the library website, and I'll show you those here in a second. And complete the readings. There's only one actually that talks a little bit more about research methods, but if you didn't get to last week's reading yet, those are also going to be helpful. And then it's time to do the research or continue the research. Time to start drafting, to start writing, working on this critique essay. The draft, I'm going to make this optional since our schedules may be different and you're going to have to perform it online. So it's really up to you if you want to do a draft and peer review. I'll provide some more information later in the week about the peer review process, but basically if you want to participate, you have to submit your draft by Sunday, end of the day Sunday on the 29th, so this week, and it only has to be one critique paragraph, right? If you have more, great. Otherwise, one is fine. You'll get some feedback on how you're working on that, how it's going, and then you can go forward and apply that to your other critique paragraphs. And so the reason why this would be due Sunday is so that your partner has time to get you some feedback in enough time to actually be useful to you. So the draft would be due Sunday. Peer review partners will be assigned on Monday once I've seen who all has turned it in. And then you would have until the end of the day Wednesday to read your partner's draft and give them any advice that you might have. And then the final copy of your critique is going to be due Sunday, April 5th, so about 2 weeks from now. This week and next week, this is really your time to be working on the paper, asking me for help, take advantage of those office hours, take advantage of the peer review process if that's something that you have found helpful. And the only other homework assignment for the week is a discussion board post due Sunday in which you talk a little bit about your research. You can, if you want to, just share the same critique paragraph that you are putting into your draft, or you can talk a bit more informally about the sources you've been finding. Because I think it'll be interesting to see the diversity of topics in research that are coming out of this sort of exploratory essay that is the critique. So let's take a look at the videos that you'll be watching this week, aside from this one. And those are coming from the library's website, actually. As luck would have it, the Santa Fe Library has put together a number of video resources as well as the web pages they have, where they walk you through exactly how to access the different resources they have on offer. So once you've gotten through the readings, which include some of the web pages on their website, you should also definitely check out these videos. Now, I know that looks like a lot, but some of them are under 2 minutes, none of them are over 5, and they are all very useful. So these videos help walk you through how to use the library databases for your research. And specifically, we've got one on 2 popular databases, the Academic Search Complete and JSTOR. And there are plenty of other databases as well, which the Accessing Library databases will show you. So a lot of options for research. It also talks about how to use Google Scholar, which opens you up to even more articles, and then also the possibility of using an ebook, because there's plenty of those that we have access to. So please do watch those videos. I was originally going to go over all of those things in this video, but then I discovered the library already did it and did it well. So those aren't really something I'm saying, hey, check these out if you want to. Please do check them out because they'll be helpful. All right, so at this point, if you haven't yet, you really want to review the critique assignment page. And I've also added a few details that I think might help clarify some points. So let's take a look quickly at just like a few things here, and I'll ask that you review it again on your own, and then throughout this week, let me know if questions crop up. So the word count for this paper is 1,000. Now that means a little bit longer than before, but you know that you have 3 sources. Each source gets a paragraph. That word count's going to come along pretty quickly. And the description of what a critique is, hopefully by now that's becoming clear, and the options that you have for what you can critique. The only requirements are that one of your sources has to be a scholarly journal article. The other 2, entirely up to you. Could be another article, could be a newspaper or magazine website article. It could be a TV episode like the Walking Dead example. It could be a video game, a documentary, anything, right? So 3 sources that you find interesting, that you think would lead to a larger project, if you had more time to pursue it, essentially. This is a process of exploration. This is just a chance to get your research juices flowing, see what's out there, and talk about what you're finding and how you're drawing connections between those sources that come up. So the type of sources you can pick, again, are up to you. I've given some examples here of different approaches. So for instance, you could have 3 sources all about the same basic topic. You could have 3 sources about a very specific topic. You could have 3 sources that are very different from each other, but you see a connection. You see, like with our Walking Dead example, that each source could help you understand the other one better. And that kind of idea only comes up once you've been digging into the research and getting curious and asking yourself questions about what you're finding. So everybody's paper is going to be a little bit different. Different topics, different kinds of sources, different kinds of focal points, right? It really depends upon your interest in what you find. And I've also got some tips down here about research methods, different databases you can check out, so do take a look at those too. But something important that I added was a little bit more information about structuring the essay. So you will want to write a brief introduction, and basically what this should do is set up the topic, whatever you've ended up researching, and talk about your research process a little bit. You can use I here. You're kind of telling the story of your research. And your thesis statement doesn't have to be an argumentative thesis statement. Let's call it an exploratory thesis. Basically, it will say, what am I writing about in my synthesis paragraph? And the synthesis paragraph is the one that comes after each critique, where you say, okay, I found these 3 sources and they've helped me to understand X better. And the kind of project I could do now that I've read these sources and thought about them is this, right? So the introduction, like any introduction, sets up the rest of the paper. What are you doing? You're looking at 3 sources that help you understand a certain topic better. And here are the connections that you've drawn. Then you've got each of your critique paragraphs, one for each source, and in those paragraphs, like I talked about in the videos last week, you want to set up 2 to 3 criteria that are just the ways that you are judging your sources, the things that you think are important to account for, whether it's the quality of the writing, whether it's how well researched it is, or if it covers an important theme of some sort that you think deserves to be explored further. So the criteria are up to you, but each source gets a paragraph, and then you have the synthesis, right? And I showed an example from one of your classmates in the video from last week, in which this was basically what you did in the brief response homework. You said, okay, now that we've looked at these 3 sources, the Walking Dead episode, the ethics website, and the academic article about trauma and ethics in The Walking Dead. In the synthesis paragraph, you say, okay, what's the connection between these sources? What have they helped me to understand better? And theoretically, if I was going to embark on a larger project, what could I write about using at least 2 of these sources? I mean, maybe you decide after going through all 3 of them that one of them doesn't fit as well as you'd hoped. That's okay. Don't go back to the drawing board and try to find another source for your paper. Stick to what you've decided upon. That's part of the research process. If you were writing the larger paper, then you would cut that source out and find a better one. Right now, we're just exploring. Next, you'd have your works cited page, and that's it. That's the essay. So I hope that it's not something too mystifying or too stressful. It really is just kind of a record of a research experiment in which you look for a topic, you see what people are saying about it, you pick 3 sources, evaluate each one, what value you think that they have, what the quality of the source is, according to whatever you think is important, and then you draw the connections between them, and we move on, right, to writing a paper that, is more argument focused than this one. So for the critique, stick to, just outlining those sources and evaluating how well they're working and how they might work together. And if you're struggling to find a topic that interests you within the loose realm of monsters, feel free to go with something else at this point. I know that I said for your final paper, if you wanted to move outside of the course theme, that would be fine. If you want to do that for this project too, also fine with me. You can venture outside of that theme, and if you're unsure of your topic, just talk to me. Send me an email or chat with me during office hours. The key really is to choose a topic, research and see what different kinds of sources are out there, and then that will hopefully broaden your horizons beyond what you thought you would find. Then you decide on 3 sources that you think connect together in some way. So the example I've been working with was an episode of The Walking Dead, an article that analyzes ethics and trauma in The Walking Dead, and a source that was just about ethics. I had a lot of options there. I could have also had the episode, an article about zombie history, and an article about infectious diseases. Or I could have just had 3 articles that analyze the show, or 3 articles about zombies from various perspectives. Your sources can be all about the same topic or be about different things, so long as you can describe how the sources connect in your mind, what they help you to think about. It can be 3 articles, a movie, another movie, and an article. It's up to you, as long as one source is a scholarly article. So let's walk through an example here. One of the resources available to you that I think is pretty great is Google Scholar. Now, in order to access all of the resources that Google Scholar can provide you with, you do want to take a look at the Google Scholar video from the Santa Fe Library, posted on the weekly schedule, because it will show you how to be logged in to the library website before you try to use Google Scholar. That way you can see that I'm logged in. It says My Library up at the left-hand corner. So I logged in first, now I'm in Google Scholar, and basically any of the articles that normally it might cost money for you to access, if Santa Fe has paid for a subscription, we can bypass that and we can get access to it. Now, throughout the process of researching through Google Scholar, even with Santa Fe access, you might come across an article that looks interesting to you that you don't have access to. In that case, if you really want to pursue that source, let me know. Email me the link or the search terms or whatever it is, and it's possible I might have access because I have resources through UF. I still might not be able to, in which case, neither of us are going to pay for it. We'll move on and find a different source. But that's always an option. If you can't get access to something, let me know and I'll see if I'm able to get it for you. But let's think about just kind of another example topic here and how we might start researching it. So let's say I decided enough with the zombies, enough with the scary stuff. I need something lighthearted, and I still want to explore the monster theme though. So I thought about Monsters, Inc. It's a classic. And that made me start to wonder, why are there so many kids' movies with monsters or strange creatures? Which popular, fantastical creatures in a kids' movie, which ones count as monsters? So we started the semester with Where the Wild Things Are, and we thought about why that story might appeal to kids. So why does Monsters, Inc. appeal to kids? It literally has a company in it that is dedicated to scaring children. But if you've seen the movie, it challenges that idea that monsters need to be scary. And so maybe I am curiously thinking, why? Why tell that story for kids? Why might kids like it? Why monsters? So if I go to Google Scholar and I'm still not quite sure, what I'm looking for, I might just say, let's see if anybody has written anything about Monsters, Inc. So, Monsters, Inc. movie, you can see that I practiced this research move before, just to make sure I'd actually see some stuff. So, let's see what might come up. Now, in my head, I'm immediately thinking I might find education journals, psychology journals, or maybe even film or pop culture journals in which people have written articles that deal in some way with Monsters, Inc. Maybe they focus on that initial question I had, which was, why do kids like Monsters, Inc.? But undoubtedly other people have gotten more specific because they've thought about this longer than I have. I thought about it for 5 minutes. So the research starts with my curiosity, but then I see, how did other people go deeper with this topic? And I'm going to take a look at their sources and see what I learned from it. So those researchers came up with their own questions, and then they sought to answer them through their research and analysis. And that's why I think this project, this critique paper, is so beneficial, because you get to see all of the interesting directions that a topic can be taken, and then in your final paper, you'll turn around and be the person who says, I am going to explore this topic more deeply. The critique paper, again, is just kind of skimming the surface of what's out there. So let's take a look at some of the sources here. The first one is called Escaping Monstropolis, Child-Friendly Cities, Peak Oil, and Monsters, Inc. So if we take a look at that one, let's see what we got here. Of course, while I'm on live video, it's taking a while to load. That would figure. Here we go. Alright, so this is published in Children's Geographies, Volume 6, 2008, Issue 3. Generally, you can tell it's an academic journal if it comes in volumes, and since we're using Google Scholar, we're already coming up with exclusively scholarly sources, but if you're just regular Googling, there are different ways that you can test out if it's a scholarly source, and actually we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I look here, and we've got the handy-dandy abstract, which can tell me whether or not this source even interests me before I start reading further. So we see in this paper, the energy shortage or scream shortage depicted in Monsters, Inc. serves as a subtle and engaging allegory, drawing attention to the non-virtual world's concerns with energy supplies, particularly oil. Okay, so I'm all for metaphor and interpretation, but Monsters, Inc. as an allegory for the oil industry, that could be cool, but it's not my bag, right? So I'm gonna say that's not what I want here. So I did some more research, and I came up with some sources from Google Scholar alone that interested me a bit more. So here's one in the Journal of Cognition and Development, and it's called Learning from Fantasy and Real Characters in Preschool and Kindergarten. And I think I found that on about page 2 of the Google Scholar research results. So, they've already gone through and found the sources that are up to snuff, I suppose. Doesn't mean all of them will interest you, but all of them are going to be scholarly, so you don't have to worry about whether you can trust the source or not. So this one looks like it's an experimental study how children respond to fantastical characters and how this affects their problem solving. So that might be of interest because my original question was, why are kids drawn to monsters, right? Cute monsters, scary monsters, what's the appeal for a child? And why are people writing monster movies for them? So here's one study that looks at the benefit of fantasy and real characters. So maybe I read that further. Maybe I become inspired to look for another source like it or different from it. Maybe I find that after reading this, I need to understand children's problem-solving skills more, so I research that instead of another source on Monsters, Inc. That's my journey. If I would follow through with that for you, figure out what your journey is in your research process. So at that point, we're looking at, let's find a third source, right? Because I didn't like the oil one. Right now I've got Monsters, Inc. as a source. I've got this one as a source. And then I just continued with my same original Google Scholar search of Monsters, Inc. movie. And I came up with 2 more sources that I might consider. One was Reimagining Horror in Children's Animated Film in the Journal of Media and Culture. So here it looks like we're seeing how horror, which is different than just saying monster, this is something that would be frightening. How is that reimagined in children's films? And if you look through, it discusses more than just Monsters, Inc. We've got Frankenweenie, Paranorman, Hotel Transylvania, all fun films that might be nice to watch while you're stuck at home. So here's a project, right, that for my final paper, maybe I see, what's this person doing? Can I do something like that? But at any rate, maybe this is one of the sources for my critique. So I would read through it. It's not actually terribly long, but it's cited plenty of sources, so maybe I check some of those out for one of mine. I've also found a third source. Imagination, Cognition, and Personality is the journal title, and the article is Favorite Movie Monsters and Their Psychological Appeal. So that's also interested in more than just one monster movie. In fact, it's not even just about children's movies. We see Chucky, Dracula, sexiness, which is generally not what we want to see in a child's movie, Freddy Krueger, but it came up in my Monsters, Inc. search. So presumably they must talk about Monsters, Inc. at some point, but unfortunately, I don't have access to this article, right? So it looks like I need to log in, or I can purchase it for $37, which I am definitely not going to do. So this would be the situation in which you could email me and say, hey, I found this article by these people. Do you have access to it? And I would check and see if I could use my UF credentials or something else. You know, a friend might be able to get it for me. If you're really attached to this article, this is the one you really want to read, let me know. We'll find a way to make it work. Alright, so that's it for today. So Google Scholar is definitely a useful resource, more than just regular Google when it comes time to finding that academic source you need. But then your other two sources can be anything else that you think is interesting. So watch the library videos. They cover more than just Google Scholar, other databases you can use to find different kinds of sources, especially academic ones, but also newspapers, magazines, ebooks. So lots of options there. And this week, work on your paper, right? Ask me if you need help. That's our main goal this week. So you're looking at the research videos and the research chapters, and you're doing your research. In the meantime, we are all practicing social distancing. While I was filming this video, I just saw the notification that Alachua County is now under, I don't want to say lockdown, but you're not supposed to leave unless it's for essential trips that might be to the grocery store or to a doctor or something like that. So Will from section 62 had actually sent me this Walking Dead meme earlier in the day, and it's now become even more true, right? So we see Atlanta in The Walking Dead and Atlanta in real life. The roads are just as clear in our coronavirus state. But this is the best thing we can do to flatten the curve. These next weeks are critical. So the more we keep our distance now, hopefully the sooner we can get back to some kind of normal. So do your part, stay home. You can still go outside and get some fresh air. Even as Alachua County, if you're still in the area, is on the essential travel only. It says that going outside is fine as long as you're, not grouping together with other people. But as far as driving to stores, the stores are going to be closed, aside from, places like the grocery stores. So find a way to keep in touch with people. Loneliness can become an issue. Depression can become an issue in times like these. So video chat with people if you can. It helps just to see somebody else's face sometime. And even if it's just me during office hours, I'm here for you. There's also, I guess, a Chrome extension for Google Chrome that allows you to have a Netflix party with people so that you can watch something at the same exact time and you can chat about it as you watch. So maybe try that out with your friends. Maybe we do that with the class, make an optional movie party, watch something monster related. That's also up for possibilities. So work hard this week, but also make sure you take time for yourself. Make sure you take time to watch after your health and your happiness. And I'm here if you need me. Come to office hours via Skype, email me, whatever. I'm here to help you as we go forward in our online course. So the critique essay, that's your focus this week. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Hopefully lots of different kinds of sources and your interpretations of them. Thanks, everybody.